Hi, welcome back to the Knitweekend podcast. Today I have for you only one finished object, a couple whips, a new cast on, and also a field trip to Modern Daily Knitting HQ. Hi, I'm Haley. You can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Knitweekend, and also here on YouTube. And we're going to do this as a traditional knitting podcast format where I'm going to go through my finished object, one, that's not plural, my whips, that is plural, and some other fun knitting adventures. So it's only actually been, I think, 3 weeks, maybe 2, since my last time that I spoke with you. And I thought maybe I don't have enough to show you because I only have one finished object, but then I thought, wait a minute, I actually have a lot to share. So I don't know how long this episode will be. I generally try to make them about 40 minutes, but I'm just gonna kind of jump into it a little bit. So let's start with, I guess, Today is Saturday, June 10th, and I'm sure, well, you won't be watching this on June 10th because I need a little time to edit and post, but I am sure you know that it is Worldwide Knit in Public Day, and which I did. My friend Kat and I met up and had a little knit and juice. We didn't do coffee today, but a juice, and headed over to the Modern Daily Knitting headquarters here in Nashville, which was super fun. I've not made it over to their space before. It was lovely. They had a good selection of the yarns that they sell online. They were hosting a workshop. There was almost not an empty chair in the whole place. They had hors d'oeuvres and some mimosas. So it was a really sweet event. So we spent a little time there, and I will show you more of that at the end of the podcast. I'll just add on some B-roll from our little excursion, and I think you actually will get to see Kat in person there. I showed great self-restraint in our trip today to Modern Daily Knitting because I only got, well, it's upside down. I only got one skein. That's it. I just got one skein of their atlas. I'm on a bit of a yarn diet at the moment, and so those are the details there. It is also 100%, this is their house yarn. It's 100% Rambouillet yarn. So it's super soft, definitely good to be next to skin. I just got the one skein to swatch and play with. Definitely something that I'd be interested in trying out for future patterns. So I went with white because I wasn't sure what type of stitch pattern I would work with, and I thought no matter what stitch pattern it is, a white will work. So, or natural white, I guess. It's not a true white, obviously. So anyhow, that was my one acquisition from Modern Daily Knitting, though they had a lot of other things that I was super interested in, very inspired by, and I will no doubt be picking up more from them in the future. So that was today's event. Then Kat and I just kind of sat and chatted. We had not had a little knit and chat, gosh, in months. It's probably, we thought, maybe the longest that it's been since we've had a chance to catch up and have a little knitting time together. You may have watched some previous episodes of mine where I talked about my trip to Norway. Well, while I was in Norway, Kat went to Iceland. And so we kind of made a pact before we left that we would use our valuable suitcase space or backpack case. I think we both ended up just taking backpacks to pack home a little bit of yarn for the other person. So we did do our yarn exchange this morning. I brought home for her some hand-dyed Rauma Fanoul that I picked up in Tromsø, and let me show you what she got for me. I will start with the Lettlopi. Like I said, she was in Iceland, and I'm sure you're familiar with this yarn, but if you're not, it is Icelandic wool. It is an Aran weight. It is a 2-ply worsted spun Aran weight. but this is not just any Lettlopi. She and I have been obsessed with the idea ever since we first read about it, that you can buy yarn in grocery stores in Iceland. And she was on a mission and determined to find some yarn in the grocery store, which she did, and it's this yarn. So she very proudly presented me with the grocery store yarn, but she had to go to a few different stores before she found it. So we started to think maybe that was just an urban legend. This color is 9427. I believe it would be a rust heather, I think is what they call it online. Yep, definitely my color. So very excited for this. And these may have to be comfort socks from Ozetta, to be honest, because I think this is the exact color that she used to knit her sample of that pattern. And I already have those socks in the barley colorway, but we may have to do it in the rust heather as well. The other item that she picked up for me very sweetly is also a hand-dyed yarn. It's this gorgeous orange rust color. And it is in Icelandic, so I can't really read too much of it, but it is 100% lamb's wool and 100 grams, about 190 meters. So let's also call it worsted weight. It's super soft, definitely very special, and I will be so excited to cast something on with this. I have to tell you, it's just so fun to have a knitting pal with similar taste in yarn. So yeah, so that was our little exchange of our Norwegian Icelandic yarn that we had today. It was such great fun and just wonderful to catch up with her. I hope you guys have local knitting buddies that you all get to chat with and hang out with, and if you don't, then put me on and we'll knit together. Okay, so let's talk about my first finished object now. This episode is going to be a little bit about maybe like the tale of two provisional cast-ons, some new techniques that I either haven't been super comfortable with and gained a new level of comfort with, or just learned. So, and one of those was in my first finished object. This one is a little lumpy because I've got some skeins of yarn in it and they are round balls. But my first finished object is the Dumpling Bag from Purl Soho. How cute is that bag? And I chose this fabulous like red-orange colorway. I just wanted something bright and cheerful to work with, and ever since Norway, I've just had red in my brain. So this is the little bag, very cute. It's got a little strap that loops on itself. And this is knit with Purl Soho Blackbird Linen. It's a 100% French linen. Now, I don't know what makes it a French linen. I should have probably looked that up before I started this episode, but it sounds fancy, right? This truly was a one skein project, which I found very impressive. And you know, Purl Soho does do sales on their yarn from time to time, some pretty good discounts. I've even seen up to 25% off. So if you happen to see that and you can pick up some Blackbird linen, then this pattern is a great one skein project. And I did take notes like a good podcaster, so if you see me looking down, that's what I'm looking at. I got them a little wet, but that's okay, I can still read them. So I did go up a needle size based on my gauge for this pattern. I knit this on 4mm needles, so it is a little bit of an open gauge. I was kind of surprised at that. I thought it would just be a bit more tightly knit, a tighter fabric. But you start with a provisional cast on the bottom of the bag and then knit it in the round up until the straps. It's a free pattern, so you can pop over and look at all of the instructions right now if you're curious on that. But I said this is going to be a tale of two provisional cast-ons. The provisional cast-on recommended for this pattern was to cast on to waste yarn using a crochet hook. I've linked a video in my knitting tips playlist so that you can see what I'm talking about there. And then you come back later and they said you can either graft it or do a 3-needle bind off. I love a good 3-needle bind off, I have to be honest. There's something about that line for me that's just so satisfying. Doesn't it look awesome? So I went with the old 3-needle bind off, but this cast on I did to waste yarn. I'm going to tell you about another provisional cast on that I learned in a little bit when I get to one of my whips, but I have to say I learned a very valuable lesson on this provisional cast on, and that is to be selective about the type of waste yarn that you use. I had never really worked any length of provisional cast on from waste yarn, just 2 or 3 stitches. This is by far the longest length because it's actually all the way around the bag that I'd ever worked. And I made the mistake of using a superwash merino waste yarn to cast on with. And it did not come out easily. So if you are doing a provisional cast on to waste yarn for the first time, pick something slick and smooth. So I'm thinking like a cotton yarn or something along those lines that you're gonna easily be able to pick out. I still think I have fuzzy bits that I need to pick out from my waste yarn issue there. So anyway, learn the lesson from me, use a slick waste yarn. This was also my first time knitting with 100% linen. I'm gonna take the skeins out so that maybe I can show you. I have knit with linen blends before. I knit a tank top last year in a linen cotton silk blend. I really enjoyed that. But this is my first time with a full-on 100% linen yarn. And I don't know if I shared this with you. I'm an English style knitter. I throw, and I found this very hard to tension. So I am not extremely satisfied. I'm not extremely satisfied with my stitch consistency in this. I feel like I should have done a better job. But it is what it is, and it doesn't look too terrible. It's just not, maybe I generally have a very even tension. And as you know, I think probably as you know, when you knit with a plant-based plant fiber yarn, you're not going to have that ability to block it out, so to speak. So I just found that the way that I held the yarn caused my hands to cramp quite a bit. I was really glad that I was using it on a small project and not something larger. But now after blocking, it has softened tremendously. So now it's a completely, drapey, soft yarn, which is pretty amazing. It's just so crazy how fibers behave once they have a little water on them. The other thing that I did notice with this particular color, you don't get brighter than this, but there was some color bleed when I blocked it. So just keep that in mind when if you're choosing, to knit it in this. I'm obsessed with this color, and even on screen, it's like so bright and cheerful. I love it. But if you choose this color, just maybe don't put it in with any other white project. So definitely be cautious on the color bleed. Don't use a white towel to dry it. I used a black towel. I did pretty aggressively block this. I'll put a little photo up for you so you can see, but I did pin all the edges out so that the strap would lay flat, and I think it did a pretty decent job of laying out. So really pleased with how it blocked, surprisingly pleased with how it blocked. I would love to knit this again. I think next time I might use a linen blend or a long wool. I think it could be like a clever bag in long wool, maybe knit it larger and felt it. But just the design is so cute and clever. So really pleased with my one and only finished object for the week. Okay, or for the episode. Okay, so let's go then to my first whip. You guys have seen this one before. In my last episode, I talked about being in a bit of a knitting rut. I'm not I think the cheerful color plus some new skills learned have really gotten me out of that knitting rut. But this was one of the projects that when you last saw it, I had frogged a good portion of it. And this is my Lunae shawl from Moonstruck Knits. This is a gorgeous mosaic shawl with then a star stitch repeat here in the one color. So I haven't really made much progress on this, but last time you saw it, I think I had ripped it back to right here, and I have knit one mosaic set and then also finished off the last of the star stitch. So it's to that portion of the shawl where it takes you 800 years to knit just one row, which is why I really haven't picked it up again. So next I need to add the mosaic border. This is 100%, well, the gray is 100% wool. I'm knitting this in Husemann, super soft in the gray and the white. The blue-green is from Istex. It's Alpaca 2 from Istex. So I'm not in a big hurry to get this one done because it really is going to be a fall winter wear, and with it currently being 90 degrees in Nashville, I won't be wearing this anytime soon. So I've just kind of accepted that this one is gonna go hang out on the knitting desk for a bit before I pick it up and have some serious work on it, and that's okay. So little progress on that whip, but the next whip I have to show you is all new, though you probably have seen or may have seen it on my Instagram stories if you've been watching. I talked with you last time about a knit along that Hannah G Knits and I were doing. We both wanted to learn how to do Intarsia and decided that we would knit the Intarsia top from Anna Husemann together. Let me tell you, I think we may have jumped into the deep end of Intarsia on this one because we don't have just 2 or 3 bobbins. I think we ended up with 9 bobbins going at once. So I have finished the front. The back is, if you see like a little mess on my table, I'm in reverse. Over there is a mess on my table. And that's actually the front portion of the top. It is a knit at the kitchen table only style of project for me in order to manage my bobbins. And so it does not travel from that spot at this point. But this is the front. And I think it looks really good. I'm super proud of it. I have still not finished the bottom. Okay, so a tale of 2 provisional cast-ons. This one also has a provisional cast-on, but I did this provisional cast-on a little bit different in that I cast it on directly to my cords, that I did not have to pick up stitches again. And Hannah very patiently waited because we had a Zoom cast on, like I said. Hannah very patiently waited while casting on her own stitches for me to teach myself this technique. I should have been more prepared and taught myself before our call, but I just went for it. So that was a really fun cast on. I have to say, of the 2 provisional cast-ons, if I were to choose one, if I'm casting on more than, let's say, 20 or so stitches, I would probably choose to cast on to the cord. I would probably choose to cast onto the cord instead of to the waste yarn. I think it's going to be much easier on the back end. So I have also linked to this tutorial. This is a tutorial from Suzanne Bryan. She calls it the lace cast on, but that's the cast on that I used for this. I am going to do a special episode, I think all dedicated to the Intarsia top. I've done some filming along the way, and because I feel like this is a really interesting pattern that I haven't seen many people tackle. And I thought you might be curious either about Intarsia or this project itself. So this is the audience participation portion of the episode. I would love it if you would comment down below. If you have any questions or any curiosities about this Intarsia top, share them with me down below so that I can kind of have some content and give you some answers when I put up the dedicated Intarsia top episode, which will come whenever it's done. If you want to see the finished object, Hannah has already finished hers. She definitely jumped ahead. Now, I will say, I ran out of yarn and I had to wait several days for my yarn to come back, for my yarn to arrive. So that's why I'm a little behind, or that's what I'm telling myself. And, you know, I don't have a deadline on this. It's not a test knit or a sample knit, so it's fine to just hang out there. So that's the Intarsia top. Let me know what questions you have, and then that way I will answer those in the Intarsia top mini episode, or I'll just make like a full length episode and have a dedicated section at the end. But love this project. It has been so fun to knit, and I can't wait to share more with you about it. So those are the ongoing whips, but I do have a new cast on. I'm not normally I'm normally just a 2 whip kind of girl, so it's unusual for me to have a 3rd whip going, but as I said, the Intarsia top does not travel, and the shawl, I'm just not into the 30-45 minute row at the moment. So, sorry, the camera moved a bit. I've got you on the dog crate again, on top of a cutting board. The life of a knitting podcaster is so glamorous. Okay, so my new cast on is actually something that I have to say, it surprised even me. So I don't know if you'll be surprised, you're still getting to know me, but I was inspired to cast this on mostly by Bethany from Well Loved Knits. I'm sure you watch her podcast. She is wildly popular and just so charismatic, and I really enjoy watching her. She recently posted that and talked about in her last episode that she's finally a real knitter because she has knit a Ranunculus tee. I think she did a t-shirt version. And so that is what I have cast on. I am just in the baby beginning stages. I've only just finished the short rows for the neck, so there's really not a whole lot to show for it yet. Why Bethany's inspired me. Hold on, I lost the yarn. I'll be right back. Ooh. I need to do some more yoga. Okay, why Bethany's inspired me. Well, she knit hers in a really crisp white, I think cotton, maybe cotton linen blend, but a white summer fabric. Now that I'm saying that, I'm second guessing that she knit it in a cotton fabric. I don't know. It was white, and something about seeing that Ranunculus in a white just really spoke to me. And I happen to have, that you may recall from a few episodes ago, some white cotton silk blend. This is called Papyrus. This yarn is now discontinued, I believe. So I don't think that you can get this yarn, but I was looking on the Hobby website, not because I need any yarn, but because I fell victim to an ad for a sale. It did not buy it. And they do have a similar cotton silk blend. So if you can't get this, which I think in the US it's pretty well sold out at this point, you can look there. But this is 78% cotton and 22% silk. It's an organic cotton. I've not been the biggest fan of Pima cottons or any other tightly spun cotton. I was watching Knitflix and Chill, and they said if you don't like cotton, try organic cotton and you will just be completely surprised. And I have to say, this is by far the softest cotton that I have ever, touched. So I don't know if you can tell from the photo how soft it is. It's pretty loosely spun, and it's very cloud-like. So I bought a bunch of, several skeins of this. And so that's what I've decided to use for the Ranunculus. So it's going to be a bit of a silky sweater. So Bethany really inspired me, but I knew my gauge was not going to be right for the Ranunculus because I think that's on like a 14 stitch gauge, and the recommended stitches for this gauge is 21 stitches for the gauge on that. So that's a big difference. But Patty Line's knitting bag of tricks has a great system for basically regrading your pattern based on your stitch and row gauge. Now, I decided that this project was going to be a good one to attempt that on. Why? Because every size, no matter what, starts exactly the same, and then the differences in the sizes don't come into play until after your yoke is finished. So I have recently discovered that I think part of the gauge issue that I have with the Cumulus Tee is I knit my swatch way too small. One of the things that Patty says in her book is a 4-inch swatch is just not gonna cut it. You really need to do more of a 6 to 8-inch swatch depending on the stitch pattern in order for your natural knitting tension to come into play. So I have re-swatched. I have swatched a 6-inch swatch because I'm just in stockinette. Now she does say if you're knitting in the round, you need to swatch in the round. I am breaking that rule because I only have a limited quantity of this yarn and it's sold out. If I'm going to play yarn chicken, then I'm gonna need to reclaim that swatch. So I did swatch it flat. I am working with an 18 stitch gauge instead of a 14 stitch gauge. So I've not done the math yet to adjust the width and the row, but I'm looking forward to spending some time with that tomorrow, probably. She really has a great formula on how to do that in this book. So this is, yeah, kind of gonna be an experimental pattern, but everybody talks about how quickly it knits up. So I thought, why not give it a go? Yeah, so that's the progress on the new cast on that I have. I'm looking around and it looks like I have covered pretty well everything that I have lying around at this point. Oh, we need to do Instagram saves. I almost forgot. You guys can't let me keep on forgetting that at the end of the episode. I don't know why that slips my mind every time. So let me go get my iPad and we'll do some Instagram saves. Oh, seeing my Instagram saves most recently reminds me that I had a question for you. I am looking for a cardigan pattern. I've recently come to the realization that I need more cardigans in my knitted wardrobe. So I have some specifications and I'm hopeful that you can help me find the right pattern. I plan to knit this with fingering and mohair held together. So I guess that would also then be probably a DK weight. I would like this to be crew neck and I would like it to not be a raglan. I find that raglan cardigans, I generally have a hard time keeping on my shoulders because they can be very narrow. So thinking either a set-in sleeve or like a tailored shoulder or possibly a saddle shoulder. So DK or fingering with mohair held double, crew neck, not a raglan. Let me know down below if you have any pattern recommendations because I would love to hear them. That's going to be for sure something on my list this summer. On to the saves. Okay, the first save that I have, this is by Street Cafe pronunciation. And this is the scallop jacket. So this does actually almost fit my specifications, but it is a raglan, but I really love the classic profile on this sweater, and the rib is very interesting. Now, do I think I want to knit a whole cardigan in rib? I don't know. But I love that cardigan. Okay, next up, this is one from Brooklyn Tweed that I found really interesting. Is this a saddle shoulder? Is this a drop shoulder? The women's version looks more like a drop shoulder. The men's definitely says saddle shoulder to me, but I think we're gonna call it a drop shoulder. I love the garter stitch, 2-color garter stitch there. I think that's really cool. When I was in a Cafe in Bergen, I saw someone who had a 2-color garter stitch sweater on, and so that's what this one reminded me of. Oh, the name of this, by Brooklyn Tweed. This is the Shadow Stripe Pullover. And how about another okay, this is a summer knit. This is another rib. Apparently I am very drawn to the rib patterns at the moment, though I don't know that I actually want to knit rib at the moment. This is Pippa Knit. This is her T01 tank top. I'm assuming that stands for Tank 01. This is gonna be similar to some of the, you know, camisole number whatevers you're finding from My Favorite Things Knitwear, but I love the detail of the rib on the shoulder straps. I just think that is so classy. It provides some structure. I love that it's not a spaghetti strap, and that you could easily wear this with a bra. So those are 3 saves. And then my ask for you to find me a cardigan pattern. I hope you come through on that, by the way. Also, don't forget to let me know if you have any questions about the Intarsia top, or if there's anything else that you just want to chat about. I definitely read all of the comments. I've been a little slow the past few weeks in responding because honestly, I have been so enamored of my Intarsia top that I just haven't wanted to stop knitting it. So every comment that I reply to is a little less knitting time. So sometimes I'm better and sometimes I'm worse. And I do ask your apologies for that. But I appreciate you hanging out with me for a little while, and I'm gonna try to be more regular outside of the 4 weeks. I don't know if those are gonna be special topic mini episodes or if that's going to be, you know, a full-length episode with whips, just to maybe update you on a little more progress along the way, other than just saying, ta-da, finished objects. Do you like hearing about the process of knitting a project, or do you just want to see if it's pretty when it's done? I don't know. Anyhow, I hope that whatever you get to do this weekend, or I guess you're probably seeing this maybe in the middle of the week, but I hope it was a fabulous day for you, or is going to be a fabulous day depending on when you're watching this. And I really appreciate you spending some time with me. So I'll talk with you soon.